and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to today's daily quiz session with us. Before we start looking at today's questions, here's a quick reminder regarding the Google form that is attached to the description box of this video. So now is the time to take the big step. If you are someone who is looking to crack the UPSC Civil Services exam in one shot, then kindly fill up the form and reach out to us. Once we have your details, we will organize a one-on-one counseling session for you, which will sort out all the doubts and queries regarding the exam, and this shall be provided to you directly from our experts. Now, proceeding with the questions of the day. The first question on your screen has been picked up because Indo-Myanmar situation is making news big time. Now today itself, the Ministry of External Affairs of India has warned Indian citizens not to travel to the Rakhine state of Myanmar because the region is experiencing the worst ever deadlock between Myanmar Junta against local ethnic minority groups of Myanmar. The situation of law and order is so disturbed that not only is the government asking not to travel there, but also to vacate the area as soon as possible. And in that light, recently India has also decided to end the free movement regime that was allowing people to travel kilometers cross-border between India and Myanmar, and now the Indian government is fencing the long border that it shares with Myanmar. The free movement regime that had been implemented back in 2018 is under question today. And therefore, we have this question for you. The first question of today. It is a set of two statements where the first one says the Treaty of Yandabo, signed back in 1826, marked the end of First Anglo-Burmese War. This is a correct statement because it was the Treaty of Yandabo that came as a peace treaty, marking an end of 2 years' war between the British and the Burmese people. Now this was signed between the British East India Company and the Burmese capital, Ava, the king of Burmese. The purpose was to secede certain territories such as Assam, Manipur, Arakan, Tenasserim to British. So therefore the second statement here is also valid. But it was not just about secession of these territories. In fact, the treaty which concluded the war, also imposed a massive £1 million indemnity on the Burmese people. And hence, both the statements regarding the First Anglo-Burmese War are valid. And hence we can say that C is the valid answer here. And now progressing to the second question of the day. We are talking about the photovoltaic cells. Very spoken about, very predominant in the news because the Indian government is making a massive push towards solar energy by not only investing in solar panels, installation of rooftop solar panels, but also by pushing the agenda towards natural gas. And in that regard, there is an interesting article in the Hindu that pertains with your GS Paper 3 environment that says how the Indian government has now decided to invest a whopping $67 billion in just the next 5 to 6 years in the energy sector. The purpose is also to invite global bigwigs to participate in India's energy growth. Now, we might also be aware about how India, along with other sunshine countries or Surya Putra countries, had initiated back in 2015 the International Solar Alliance. And in this regard, here comes the question. The first statement says, a photovoltaic or a PV cell is a non-mechanical device that converts sunlight directly into electricity. This is correct. Because if you just break down the word itself, then photo means light. Voltaic, this refers to electricity. So we are talking about the conversion of sunlight into electricity. Now therefore the PV cells are often also, in a very local language, in a very colloquial sense, known as solar cells. They are made up of a particular class of solid chemical elements or compounds which conduct electricity in certain specific conditions and not in others. And hence, you know what I'm talking about? We are referring to semiconductors. So solar cells are made up of semiconductors in a major way. Specifically talking of semiconductors, we need to mention the most common ingredient, the most common element here. That takes you to the second statement. Silicon by far is the most common semiconductor material used in solar cells. That's true. In fact, more than 80% of solar cell panels are made up of silicon itself. Another very popular ingredient would be germanium. Therefore, the second statement here is valid as well. Now, coming to the third statement, we are talking about an organization. We are talking about an intergovernmental cooperation known as CHIP4 or Fab4. It says this alliance includes 4 of the world's top producers of semiconductors, namely the US, Spain, Taiwan and Korea. Although CHIP4 indeed is about an agreement between nations who together contribute to more than 70% of global value of semiconductor industry. But there is something incorrect about the statement as well, and this is that this group does not include Spain. It is US, Taiwan, South Korea and Japan. The idea was mooted back in 2022 by US head of the government. It wanted to create a system of streamlining and coordinating better practices when it comes to semiconductor supply chain across the world. In a way, it also drew criticism from China, which currently also is a major exporter in this industry. And hence we can say the first 2 statements only are correct, making A the valid answer here. As we move to the third question, we are referring to biodiversity, environment and wetlands. We are talking about protected biodiversity areas. The first statement here talks about Marine National Park. Once again, why has this question become important for analysis today? The reason is an article in the Hindu that pertains to environment, which mentions how Tamil Nadu is making a remarkable impact by pioneering a model for protecting sinking islands in the Gulf of Mannar area. So here we are talking about how one island, one of the 21 islands of the Thoothukudi region in Tamil Nadu, which was initially experiencing shrinking. It was dying. It was a dying ecosystem. But today, with the effort of government, it is not only coming back to life, it is also now protecting the wide variety of coral reefs that are endemic to the region. And in this regard, let's hop back to the question. The first statement says the Marine National Park in Gulf of Kutch is the largest marine national park in India. Indeed, the statement is valid because whenever we talk about marine protected regions, let's remember that we are talking about wetlands. Areas that are perennially, round the year, under some moisture. They are moist, they have some water content. And in this regard, marine national parks or protected areas are lakes, ponds, marshes, sometimes regions of sea that boast of endemic biodiversity. Endemic is something that is specific to a particular geographical area. So these areas are created to protect the unique local flora and fauna. And in this regard, let's remember India's first marine wildlife sanctuary and first marine national park were created in the Gulf of Kutch back in 1980 and in 1982. talking about the Marine National Park in the Gulf of Kutch. This is situated in a beautiful archipelago. An archipelago is a collection of many small islands taken together. So total, we talk about 42 tropical islands in this area. Situated near the northern coast of Jamnagar. And on that note, let's also remember that India, in fact, has 6 important marine national parks in total. Let's quickly discuss the names of few. The first one, as we are mentioning here, of course, is the Marine National Park, the Gulf of Kutch. The second, deserving a mention here, is the Malvan Sanctuary that is situated in Maharashtra. Talking about another one that is also a part of the second statement known as Gahir Matha. Its situation, we shall discuss shortly. Now talking about Gulf of Mannar, Tamil Nadu. Mahatma Gandhi Marine National Park, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and similarly Rani Jhansi Marine National Park, situated again in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So these 6 are very critical when we talk about marine biodiversity and protective steps towards them. So let's now come back to the second statement. It says Gahir Matha Marine Sanctuary, situated in West Bengal, is very famous for nesting beach of olive ridley sea turtles. So what is wrong with the second statement? Well, indeed, Gahir Matha Marine Sanctuary provides a hotbed for olive ridley turtle population, but not situated in West Bengal. In fact, it is situated in the state of Odisha. So only the first statement here becomes valid, then making A your correct answer. With that, let's come to the fourth question for today, and we are talking about International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. Why the question though? Question has come up in the light of Russia-Ukraine ongoing war. It says United Nations nuclear chief has said that security situation is still very fragile. It is still very, very dangerous in the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Now we know that this power plant situated in Ukraine was battling constant attacks. It was in a very tricky situation in the face of ongoing scuffle between Russia and Ukraine. So now, given that any leak or any problem with it could trigger a host of health and environmental problems, the question here talks about the IAEA. It says, Statement 1, that IAEA is an international organization that seeks to promote the peaceful use of nuclear energy and to inhibit, which means to stop or control, its use for any military, army, weapons purpose. This indeed is a correct statement because created back in 1957 as an autonomous organization within the United Nations, IAEA is headquartered in Austria, in Vienna. It is an intergovernmental organization that seeks to promote peaceful nuclear energy usage. Looking at the second statement, it says IAEA reports to both the United Nations General Assembly and Security Council. Now, as I said, although it is managed by its autonomous treaty, but indeed it is reporting to both these agencies of the United Nations, making the second statement also valid. So now we can say that C is the correct answer because both the above statements are correct. And in this light, now is the time to look at today's PYQ coming to you from 2021. An interesting question that talks about, with reference to India, the terms halbi, ho and kui are related to. They pertain to which of the following? A. Dance forms from northwest India. B. Musical instruments. C. Prehistoric cave paintings of India, or is it D. Tribal languages? You might have heard these names very often in reference to India's diverse tribal groups, because indeed these are tribal languages. Now do remember, most of them, rather than being languages, are dialects, because dialects are spoken forms of languages which necessarily always do not have a written script behind them. And on that note, let's also remember that when you talk about Halbi, the first language here in question, it is also sometimes called as Bastari because it is predominant in the Bastar area of Chhattisgarh, as well as other adjoining regions of, say, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, as well as certain belts of Odisha. Talking about Ho. Ho is a very common language that is used by the Ho tribals. Where? In Jharkhand, in West Bengal, the tribals of Odisha and Bihar. And talking about the third language here, Kui. Kui is spoken specifically by the tribals Kondh. Sometimes also these are referred to as the Kandha. And these are situated in the state of Odisha. So therefore, let's also remember that as per the 2011 census of India, about 8.6% tribals inhabit India. But although they are situated specifically in the northeast and 5 mainland states of India, they are very diverse when it comes to language, culture, and even religious affiliations. On that regard, let's also remember a quick fact that Santhali language, spoken by the Santhal tribals, is the largest spoken tribal language of India. Let's remember that it is spoken by about 6 million people across the subcontinent. On that note, there's another interesting fact that I want to give you. According to the 2011 census again, the largest tribal group in India is not Santhal, but it is Bhil. Whereas, there is another tribal group that is known by the name of Toto. And Toto is one of the world's smallest tribal group. It's almost like a tribal community, and it is specifically found in India-Bhutan border. And on that note, let me leave you with a question. So if you know the answer, do post it in the comments. Which of the tribal languages have been included in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution? Do let me know your replies, and in the meantime, we shall check out on the fact of the day. So today's fact is about NASA, because yesterday we spoke about an interesting astronomical discovery, the promise of a new life in a new planet. And today, once again, we are back on another initiative by NASA that is scheduled to be launched in 2024. And yesterday, the news says it has been slightly delayed because of poor weather conditions. And we are talking about NASA's PACE mission. What is the PACE mission by NASA? Now, PACE stands for Plankton, Aerosol, Cloud, Ocean, Ecosystem Mission. What's the objective behind this satellite mission? The objective, as per NASA, is to focus on 2 critical things. One is atmospheric aerosols. But what are aerosols? Now remember, aerosols are nothing but particles of solids as well as liquids, droplets of liquids that are suspended in gas medium. Sometimes the biggest example of aerosol could be, which you read in the newspaper every day, the particulate matter that is contributing to massive air pollution, specifically in the region of Delhi. So we talk about particulate matter 2.5, particulate matter 10, that's also an aerosol. The fact that they are suspended in the air causes a lack of visibility. Also, it has health ramifications. And in that light, a critical aspect of the PACE mission is to understand and analyze aerosol suspension in the atmosphere. And what impact does it actually have on ocean surface planktons? It provides, therefore, a dual or a double perspective on understanding the health of Earth's ecology, specifically marine ecology. What impact can ocean life have because of air pollution? And now, let's understand that PACE mission, therefore, will try to measure and count for atmospheric particles and clouds, which are responsible for scattering of sunlight and absorption of sunlight. Improved characterization of aerosol particles will also enable measuring them and understanding how much impact are they having on biodiversity of the ocean life. Therefore, the PACE will allow scientists a new foresight, a new monitoring capacity into fisheries development. On a commercial scale, it will really help in boosting the potential of fisheries. It will help in identifying harmful algae blooms, sometimes which lead to lack of oxygen in given water bodies, and it kills the life or the marine life that exists inside. And it will also help them in analyzing the changes in ocean health. Apart from that, once the mission is able to capture the real problem of global phytoplankton distribution and how widely it is spread in which region, in what amount, the mission will also contribute to understand the complex systems that drive ecology of the ocean and how is it intrinsically linked with the ecosystem of the air. So therefore, it's the connection between the two that will open new foresights to promote better marine life, and that's the idea behind the PACE mission. With this, we come to an end of today's quiz analysis. I thank all of you for being a part of today's session.